self-discipline is a continual love letter to yourself, saying to yourself, I am worth this effort. This thing that I'm applying, I'm practicing more discipline towards really matters to me in my life. What values need to come into the picture here for me to produce this life, for me to create this life? And once you get clear on the values, now we can start to become more disciplined in the ways that are essential, the behaviors, the habits, the practices that are going to keep these values alive, strong, healthy in our day-to-day life. Whatever it is that you want to have more discipline in, create some kind of reward for yourself so that you don't get the reward until you do the thing. You hold yourself to it. We're all fucking human. And I'd like to think that we're all doing the best that we can. And that is gonna look different for everybody. We don't need to make things harder on ourselves. I really stand in that. And most people do. This is the Roxanne Show. Get ready. It's time to rise. And we're rolling. This episode is, well, first of all, this episode was selected by you in my community. So I did a poll on Instagram recently and I asked, there were 3 topics and I will do all 3. But the topic that won was how to develop stronger self-discipline. So strap yourself in because that's what we are going to dive into today. We as in me and I. I in me. We. Why is self-discipline important? First of all, I mean, without self-discipline, what does that life look like? Right? Let's start with that kind of illustration. I mean, probably not a life that is going to feel good, that's going to give results that, you know, you can respect, that are admirable, achievements. Health is probably going to be taking a big fucking hit, not probably will. The list goes on, right? A life without strong levels of self-discipline is really a flimsy life. It's a life where you don't have much focus. Here's a big piece of why self-discipline is really, really important. And I know this to be true for my own life because discipline allows you, strong self-discipline supports your own self-trust, right? I'm going to say it again. The more discipline that you have, self-discipline, the more you can trust yourself. And I will tease that out throughout this episode. So one of the greatest sort of compliments or feedback that I get from people is how are you so consistent, right? Just in my life period, right? I'm pretty fucking consistent. Discipline plays a big role in that. There are a lot of aspects of my lifestyle at this point where I don't need to be disciplined anymore, like i.e. my diet, how I eat, or even training. But there's a lot of discipline that has to come into the picture as an entrepreneur. Nobody's telling me what to do, how to do it. And that's by design. I don't want anybody telling me that. I'm here to own my fucking life, right? Well, that's great. And it sounds really cool. But without strong self-discipline, it's not going to happen. You're going to be a mess. You're not going to have the boundaries that you need to have. You're not going to have the focus, the directional energy that is vital, especially as an entrepreneur, to have every single day when you get up. When you work, and this is not a hit against anybody who works for somebody, but it's just different when you go to work and somebody, what your job is and it's very clear and it doesn't change much. And it's like this is when you're an entrepreneur, especially in this realm that I'm in, I'm a writer, I'm a podcaster, we build content, I'm an artist. It's like, there's so many moving parts and every day things are shifting. Certain things become more important than other things. And if I didn't have the discipline that I have, then I wouldn't be in this position right now to even be talking to you on this podcast. I wouldn't have this podcast. So, I know that discipline is desired by most of you because you already realize the power that comes with the empowerment that comes with being more disciplined. So you're probably like, if you were someone who checked off the create this episode, stronger self-discipline, you're probably someone who feels like you can't really get a grip on the behaviors and the habits that you really want to be enforced in your life, that you want to be just a consistent part of how you flow in your life, right? Something continues to get in the way of that. And usually it does come down to your level of discipline. So I'm just laying this all out. Like, why is it so important to have strong levels of self-discipline? Now, I'm going to say something that I think is maybe unusual when it comes to the subject of discipline, but it's a truth for me. I personally think that strong levels of self-discipline is really sexy. So a lot of people would say that discipline is not that sexy, right? It's certainly not going to promote more hedonistic pleasure, right? If anything, it's like kind of creating a barrier between you and some kind of hedonistic pleasure. And by the way, hedonistic pleasure is a part of the human experience. We don't want to completely remove ourselves from those moments, but we also don't want to be on a fucking hedonic treadmill either, right? And discipline plays a big role in that. And the reason why discipline, someone who has strong levels of discipline is sexy to me is because it's fucking hard. It's really hard. It's actually becoming more and more difficult to hold to your discipline in today's life because we have this, the phone, for those of you not watching on YouTube. I mean, we have so much more distractions. We don't, the accessibility to food, to things that give us like big surges of dopamine that's not necessarily healthy for us. We just have more access to this stuff. You can binge watch fucking multiple shows on Netflix all through the night. There's no, without having discipline to say, no, I need to go to bed, right? It's not easy, basically, to enforce the discipline that is vital for you to accomplish great things in life that matter to you, and ultimately just to hold yourself up as an individual that has her fucking shit together powerfully. Because without discipline, it's like you ultimately, you don't have control in ways that are important to have control. So how do we do this? What's the first step to developing stronger self-discipline? Are you ready for this one? I'm going to tear into this because it might on the surface sound so usual, but it's actually much deeper than most hang out in this subject. So first thing that you need to do to enforce more self-discipline is you have to know what your core values are. Your core values. Here's where I'm going to take it deeper. Not surface, not what you think your values should be, not what your parents told you your values should be, or society or the successful quote unquote person told you your values should be. What are your fucking core values? What do you truly value? I'm going to tell you right now. You want to know what your core values are? It's showing up in your day-to-day life. And that may piss some people off or hurt some people. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to keep it real always so that you can actually make a difference in your life, because that's where we actually make a difference, is when we are honest with ourselves, right? Because the thing is that what you value, you make time for. What you value, you commit to. What you value, you literally make your decisions off of. This is why knowing your core values is so important. So let's just say health, the answer to that. Rox, well, one of my core values is health. Cool. Let's look at your life. How's health showing up for you? Is it showing up as a priority? Are your habits consistent that are saying, like, to yourself and to the world, like, this person really does value their health? you're at the gym consistently, you manage your sleep well, you eat foods that nourish your body and keep you in optimal states of vitality. You have, boundaries around your social media. You get outside in nature. Like, is this, and again, I'm not judging, but I'm just saying, like, if we can't check off any of these fucking boxes here, then maybe you don't value health in the way that you think you do. And if you say, no, well, I'm not checking off those boxes like I'd like to, but I really do value health, that's allowed here too. But then we need to look at, well, what the fuck is getting in the way? And that is, there's a lot of reasons, and I can't tear into all of that. But my point is to say that, and I used health as an example because I think almost everybody wants to, claim health as a core value, but I don't think everybody truly understands what a core value is. A core value is it belongs to you authentically. Like, you have got to this place in your life where you know that this thing, i.e. the value, matters to you more than most anything in your life, such that you are going to prioritize it in your life on a consistent level. Okay. I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying that that's how this works. Right. So you have to, rule number one to develop more self-discipline is you want to take some time and really ask yourself those questions. Like, what do I truly value? And even if at this moment of your life, certain values that you really do value aren't showing up in that way where you can check off the boxes, but think about, like, future pace your life. What do you want your life to look and feel like? Again, this has to be so authentic, not some idea that somebody, passed down, or society, like, no pressure, no external pressure of what your life should look like. Like, what do you want it to look and feel like? And once you start to really get clear on that picture, that feeling, those ideas, then you can start that's a helpful way to understand, like, okay, what values need to come into the picture here for me to produce this life, for me to create this life. And once you get clear on the values, now we can start to become more disciplined in the ways that are essential, the behaviors, the habits, the practices that are going to keep these values alive, strong, healthy in our day-to-day life. See what I'm saying? Like, so a person that doesn't know what they really value is going to be flimsy when it comes to having discipline in any of these areas. So again, health is the easiest one. And I think the most universal to use, because I think almost everybody understands that it's really important to be healthy. But I think it's important to realize that you can't just like the idea of being healthy. It actually has to mean something deeper to you. And this is where kind of a segue to move forward on the discipline, please, is going to come into the picture. I know in my life, and we'll use my business as an example, my career life, mission, great word for it. It really matters to me. This show fucking matters to me. I'm going to show up. I'm going to have discipline in all the ways that I need to have discipline to make this show as great as it could be for as long as it gets to live. And there's a lot that has to come into the picture when it comes to discipline for me to achieve that. So inserting here that whatever it is that wherever you want to have more discipline, you really need to care a lot about that zone, that focus, that whatever it is. Like, you have to genuinely care about it. If you don't, it's really easy to not fucking be disciplined. But when you do care, it becomes easier to enforce that discipline. Okay? One way that I think is helpful to start to, so let's just say, like, okay, cool. You got your core values down. Like you've really done that work, that deep work. Like I know my health, my family, my freedom, my authenticity, quality times, my loved ones, like these are core values of mine. Okay, cool. And in that, you also know very clearly, you have a very strong why, and you're very passionate about these zones of your life, right? So all this stuff is dialed in. I mean, this takes a lot of work, but just to keep us moving forward here. Now it comes time to the behaviors and the habits, right? How do you actually start to enforce more discipline? And enforce sounds so hard. It sounds so kind of militant. Nothing wrong with that. But let's just say it's a word that doesn't resonate with you. Maybe that already kind of makes you feel like, oh my God, discipline, I don't want to trap myself. I don't want to have I think discipline is truly how you free yourself. Like Jocko Willing says, discipline is freedom. Because it is, you don't have a back door. You don't have an escape route. There is no, it's 100% fucking this and nothing else. It's so clear. That gives you so much freedom wherever you're, infusing that point of discipline, that execution of discipline rather. But if the word enforcing sounds too aggressive for you, okay, fine. Let's use a different word. Practicing, where you practice self-discipline, because it is a practice, right? So we need to gamify shit. I think it's really, really valuable when we can start to gamify. How do we do that? Well, there's a lot of different ways, and it depends on what you're doing and kind of what lights you up. One of the things that I like to do, it's the whole reward factor. I mean, literally just yesterday, oh my gosh, I'm doing taxes and there's just a lot of shit that you got to go through. And I remember at this one point, I wanted to get up so bad and go make myself a strong coffee, a fucking adaptogen latte coffee that I love so much. But I kept saying to myself, no. Park it, get through 1, 2, 3 more of the things that I had to do. And then you'll go and you'll get your strong coffee. So I was creating this reward for myself. The coffee became the fucking reward. And I had to have the discipline to sit down and finish that 1, 2, 3, bit of work that I laid out for myself. So how can you gamify your, whatever it is that you want to have more discipline in, whether it's your training, whether it's your work, like in my example, whatever it is, create some kind of reward for yourself so that you actually, you don't get the reward until you do the thing. You hold yourself to it. There's another way to do this too. It's like the whole reward and consequence factor. You can also create a consequence for yourself. Some people that's very effective. If you don't train today or go work out today, if you eat outside of the set kind of program that you have for optimal health in your day, then there is a consequence. And again, you have to be the one to create these rewards and these consequences. However it's going to affect, you might be someone that, maybe the reward is going to be to go buy yourself a new, workout top or something. Or maybe the consequence is, shit, I'm going to have to, go, I don't know, do some kind of yard work that you don't want to do or something that you keep putting off. Too many examples and I'll run into the fucking trenches and I don't think I'll be able to pull myself back today. The point is that you want to gamify. You want to create this, I'm going to create this sort of pact with myself that if I can do this, I will give myself that. And, or if I don't do this, I'm going to have to do that. And you don't want to do that. And start small. I always say like inches make the mile. There's so many different zones where people want and need to be more disciplined. For you, it could be, I want to be better about my health. And for the other person, it could be, I want to be better about my finances. You know, there's too many zones for me to tap into. What I want to focus on is essentially the principles here. You know, why does it even matter? And I think that's really worth examining deeply, because it's one of those things where I think people know it's a good idea to have more discipline, but do you really know? Do you really understand why? And I think how I started this episode with just think about, what is a life without strong discipline? What does that look like? I mean, maybe you're already feeling that shit. So maybe you already clearly know, and that's why this episode is important for you. Okay, Rox, so how do I get more discipline into my picture? Well, again, first and foremost, what do you value? Truly value? What can you stand in? Like, what do you really care about, such that you are willing to put yourself in a position where you're going to probably be uncomfortable in a lot of, because you're going to have to make changes. You know, you're going to have to do things differently. And that's not going to be easy. But because you care about this X thing or these things, you're willing to do that. And then you set yourself up sort of in this gamified manner on a day-to-day, you know, kind of approach, where little by little you just start to implement, like, okay, you know, if it's something related to your fitness, to your, you know, I'm going to make sure that I get, you know, 8,000 steps today, and I'm going to give myself a reward or a consequence if I don't. It becomes a bit of a game. I think it's also so important. This is really important here. Let's just say you're someone who you have these moments that you do really well, and then you kind of fall off. And in the fall off, this is where most people get fucked up. The fall off puts you into a cycle of guilt and of shame. And now you get so far away from where you were, like from being that, like it almost feels impossible to get back to. I know, just because I've talked to so many people, especially in this zone of conversation. And here's the reality. That's all a fucking narrative in your head. Not to be mean, you know, like, or lack compassion, because I understand that it can be very difficult for a lot of reasons. But the reality is that everything in our life is coming down to our narratives. It's the stories that we're creating around everything. So here's your invitation, if you are that person right now, to realize that what's behind you is behind you. Tomorrow's a new day. Let's get up and start all over. Let's think about what you really value. Let's think about why this stuff really matters to you. Let's think about how you can start to implement small, effective changes and give yourself rewards or consequence or both, whatever, to start to create the behaviors that create the habits. This is important. Behaviors fuel the habits. It's the behaviors, right? My behavior. I am someone who deeply values quality sleep, because I know how important sleep is for everything in life, but specifically my health, how I show up and I can perform, how I feel just emotionally, hormonally, like all these things, right? So my behaviors that create the habits are, first of all, I don't watch TV outside of UFC fights, but I'm not a late night person. I don't have those behaviors of being a late night person. I wrap it up around sunset, you know, and I, you know, have like a whole kind of ritual of how this is where the habits come in, right? The rituals, how I move, how I close out my day. But my behaviors are, you know, and at one point there was discipline that had to come in and shift the behaviors, by the way, because I lived in New York City. I literally lived upside down. I was like a night person. But once the discipline did its thing and helped me establish these new behaviors that then established the new habits, I mean, now it's just autopilot. I don't have to, it's just how I function, right? So you know, when it comes to creating more self-discipline, I can't prescribe a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 step situation because everybody's so different. And when I say everyone's so different, your battles, your challenges, the things that matter to you, your core values, your narratives, like everyone's so fucking different. There's no templated way to prescribe, this universal, like, this is how you do it. But my goal with this episode is just to, first of all, again, reinforce why it's important, but also just share some principles and some tactics that could be supportive to you to start to work your way up your discipline levels, like to make them stronger, to put more stripes on your belt. If you are someone that has had a hard time or is having a hard time with discipline, and maybe you are that person who, you beat yourself up over it, you shame yourself, you guilt yourself. First of all, I really want you to try your best to give yourself some more compassion. It's not going to make you weak. It's not going to baby you. It's not going to take you away from stepping up into becoming a more strong, disciplined individual. It's just going to help you back off the fucking shame and guilt energy and the resistance part. We're all fucking human, I think. And I'd like to think that we're all doing the best that we can. And that is going to look different for everybody. We don't need to make things harder on ourselves. I really stand in that. And most people do. And I have done that myself I've lived that for sure. And it's not to say that I still don't have moments where I am. Of course I fucking do. I'm just more aware of them. I can catch it now and I can pivot that shit because being on my team is my norm. And that energy is so outstanding for me that when that other shit comes in, I'm like, what the fuck is happening, right? Get out of here, But if you are someone who maybe has been shaming yourself because you haven't been able to cultivate the discipline that you want and that you need for your life, let's just do a reboot right now. Let's reset and say that moving forward after this episode, you are going to start with a new frequency, a new energy as you approach this. I'm going to develop more discipline in my life. So one of the big goals, again, with this episode, actually, maybe I didn't say this, but I do want this to live here, is I just want you to think about discipline in a different way. I'm not asking you to think about it like I do, which is discipline is fucking sexy. However, I think it could serve you. Just start to slowly just think about that concept because again, and more these days, it's just so easy to lack discipline. It's so easy. And, if you look at anybody that you admire, and I don't know who that could be, but I'll use me as an example. I can't think of one person in my life that I truly admire, respect, and feel inspired by that does not have strong self-discipline. Not one of them. Every single one of them has strong self-discipline. And, I hope that something about this episode, listening to this episode, invites you to just reframe what discipline means to you. I want you to think of it as a continual love letter to yourself. That's really fucking powerful. Discipline, self-discipline, is a continual love letter to yourself, saying to yourself, I am worth this effort. Because discipline requires effort, right? I'm worth this effort. This thing that I'm applying, I'm practicing more discipline towards really matters to me in my life. And also, I want to be able to trust myself more. This is a really important piece. When I say I'm going to do something, I fucking do it. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. That's how I can trust myself. That's one way I trust myself. Discipline comes into the picture more often than not in that zone. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I have to have the discipline to see that thing through, whatever that thing is. And because I know I've proven to myself that when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I've utilized that discipline that has helped me to back my shit up. Yeah, I can trust myself more. Again, self-trust, there's a lot of different ways that this comes into the picture, into your life. But this piece right here, having discipline so that your intention, your words match your action, that's a big fucking piece to how you start to trust yourself more. Without self-trust, this is also a life that's going to be flimsy, that doesn't feel good. You're going to play small. You're certainly not going to go for things that matter for you. You can't. You don't trust yourself, so you're really not going to experience your full potential, higher states of your potential. You're going to keep yourself disconnected from the wholeness of your true self, right? So we don't want to do that. We want everything that we're doing in our life to be moving us towards stronger self-trust, and self-discipline is a big piece of that. So here's a practice for you as we start to kind of round out. Again, there's so many ways to gamify and start to implement stronger levels of self-discipline, but too many for me to spit out in one episode. I'll do more episodes, but one thing that you can start to do today, if you feel called to do it, that may support you to have stronger discipline, is give yourself some kind of "I'm going to do this" statement. Write it out if you need to, like a little fucking thing to yourself, like sign it even. Fine. Whatever you got to do, just make it real for you. I'm going to do this. And do it, do something, especially if you're just kind of doing something different here. Don't create some shit that's going to make it so hard for you to accomplish that you're not going to do it. And then you fall into the shame and the guilt cycle. Just do something that pushes you a little bit. Like it's a little bit of a challenge. It's not easy. Like I'm going to brush my teeth. Hopefully that's easy. No, like it's going to ask you to put effort in some area that matters to you. Claim it, write it on your fucking fridge, whatever, and do the damn thing. Do it. By the time I go to bed tonight, I have done this X thing, right? And if you want a reward and consequence, if you want to do that, here too, you can totally do that. You start building off this. You do it today, then you do it tomorrow. Start writing it out. Literally, today, I'm going to accomplish this one thing. And I think that's also probably a really important piece to put in here too. Don't try and discipline the fuck out of every zone of your life. Focus on the most important pieces right now. So wherever you feel you struggle with discipline the most, maybe start there first before you try and I'm going to do it's like the whole New Year's resolution. I'm going to discipline my finances. I'm going to discipline my fucking fitness. I'm going to discipline my nutrition. No, that's not going to work, because right now what your goal is it's not even about the thing that you're doing. It's literally about the attribute. It comes down to, you need to know that wherever you practice discipline, that you can do it. That when you're ready to apply, I'll say enforce here too, enforce the discipline, you know that you have that switch about you, that you can just turn it on and you can fucking apply it to that zone. So do you see what I'm saying? It's not even just about the thing that you're focusing on as much as it's about the actual attribute of discipline. I hope this helped. Let me know, truly. If it didn't, if you're like, dude, you could do better, cool, let me know. I'm open to hearing that. I love hearing from you guys. The conversation is always an ongoing conversation, right? We start here and then we keep it going. DM me on Instagram. A lot of you do that. And you know, if you have that, I get down with you there. I love to connect with you there. Substack. If you love the podcast and you like to read, go to Substack because that is where my writing lives. There's also a private podcast that I started there. And that's a paid subscription, but it's a really cool, just raw. There's no intro, outro. It's like a me voice noting you kind of thing. But that's on Substack too. And there's a link to that in the show notes. And outside of that, ratings and review. There's a link in the show notes to give us a honest review and rating. And me and my incredible team truly appreciate it. So thank you so much. Cheers to more fucking discipline because we all need it. And it's something that is a continued practice, even for myself, no matter how great I might be with discipline, it still is going to get tested. And I'm here to pass that test every single time and hopefully help you do the same in your life. All right. Bye. To all my tender savages, to all you self-lovers, to all you magnetic badasses who are showing up every day authentically, courageously, who refuse to play small, I'm so excited to introduce our new lifestyle brand, La Roxanne, because we designed it just for you. Who's we? We is my work wife / wing woman / badass graphic artist, Paulina Stewart. Every design is a culmination of deep intention, love, fire, magic, heart, and soul brought to life through my writing and Paulina's graphic work. Because we are so intentional about every single statement, every design, we only drop one design a month. We want you to live it. We want you to feel the essence and the frequency of every design because they are so powerful, like you. So check it out, laroxanne.com. It's in the show notes. The new drop is so sick, and I cannot wait to see all of you wearing it. You get a variety of products to choose from in each drop. So wear it on your head, hat. You can get socks. You can wear a hoodie. You can hang it on your wall. Whatever you end up doing, please do let us know by sharing it on your socials and your stories. Tag at Roxy Look, tag La Roxanne, and we will reshare the powerful, magnetic, badass beauty that you are. laroxanne.com.